Welcome everybody to the first instalment of the Rugby Alberta Special Guest Coach Webinar Series. My name is Gordon McCrory and I'm the Community Coach Development Officer for Southern Alberta. Just tonight, this is a great opportunity to delve into the minds of coaches regarded as the best in the business and to cover topics such as coach development, coaching styles and the like. Please note that you can use the chat tool if you'd like to ask our guest coach any questions. I will do my best to relay them onto Clark, but can't guarantee every question will be asked. Okay, so let's just get started here then. Okay, so first of all, Clark, thanks very much for your time here. I know you got a busy schedule, so really appreciate coming on this call. I suppose the first question that I have here is, what's your story and how does a man from Jed Forest end up as head coach of the All Blacks Sevens team?
Yeah, well, it's thanks for having me on. It's I guess a little bit of a random story, isn't it? That you get a Scotsman ended up coaching in New Zealand, but I guess we came to New Zealand 10 years ago as a rugby development officer to work for Taranaki Rugby. I was busy working in Scotland as a development officer, and there was an opportunity to come to New Zealand through one of my mates who actually worked at Taranaki at the time. So yeah, that was the initial contact, was to come along and do rugby development, and then since then, I suppose there's been wide varying roles within New Zealand that's culminated in, I guess, the opportunity to coach New Zealand Sevens over the last 2 seasons.
So you're obviously a player as well. Played for Jed Forest, played some professional rugby in the Borders. Was it always kind of your intent to go into coaching, or how did that come about?
No, I don't think so. I was a mechanical engineer when I left school. I left school at 16 and done an apprenticeship in a factory to become a mechanical engineer. And I suppose I always knew I didn't want to spend all my working life clocking in and clocking out of a factory, even though it was a real good job. Being stuck inside wasn't really for me. So as you say, through playing rugby, when I played Sevens, we started working as a part-time development officer for Jed Forest, and had some pretty cool mentors along the way. Like Richie Gray took me under his wing.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Borders rugby development officer at the time, and really just got into it from there. And I didn't really think about coaching or teaching. I was never teacher trained, so I think it was a good way to introduce you to coaching. Rugby development, you have to, if you can organise 6 or 7 year olds for an hour. Once you get to coach adults, and that becomes reasonably easy in some respects. So that was the start, and then, as I say, I've done that for a number of years while still playing, and ended up at East Lothian Council, which was awesome for me, as I say, not teacher trained or even working in sport really. So that allowed me to work across different sports with people in different sports. I think there was hockey, football, basketball, disability sport, rugby. So that was a really good grounding for me around how you go about organising yourself as a sports development officer and working with children and schools. So, and then through that, I guess again, I didn't really, I wasn't really sure about coaching full time, or it was really just the right place at the right time in Taranaki. They had a new academy manager who wasn't really that fussed about coaching. He wanted to run the program and be the manager of the program. So, as I say, right place at the right time, and opportunities opened up within New Zealand. So I wouldn't say I was I suppose a structured pathway into coaching, but
right.
I think doing varied roles has really given me a really good grounding, around different types of coaching, different types of people, and really enjoyed that youth side of it, and probably still, would love to go back coaching 16 to 18 years old who have less ego and still think they can, do whatever they want in the sport. I think that 14 to 18 year olds are still probably the most enjoyable group to coach.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Just talking about your development officer days in Jed Forest, I read an article, maybe it was with the council, I read an article saying that you wanted to try and avoid coaching like everyone else. So what did you consciously do to make sure you avoided that?
That was a big driver in probably coming to New Zealand. You know, I was coaching, say, the border under 16s or East Lothian and under 18s, and stayed. You know, I had a job, and you know, we were happy in the job we had, and we were living in Jed with, you know, my first daughter was only one, but I really felt having played sevens and played, you know, around the world, and actually when I went to Hong Kong tens and played with a lot of New Zealanders and Fijians and Samoans and a team that I was only Scotsman in the team, I got my eyes open to the different way they wanted to play the game.
Right.
And even within a week in Hong Kong tens, which isn't your most structured week in rugby, it's pretty relaxed and enjoyable, but there was a real edge to when we played, and their ability to flick the switch and still take the game really serious, even with a hangover, was it sort of opened up my eyes to how different it could be.
Yeah.
So that was probably the main driver to come to New Zealand and try and experience, you know, a different type of rugby. Not that I thought I'd be here for 10 years. I wanted to be exposed to different people, different ways of thinking about the game, different ways of thinking about coaching. As I say, I thought we would come for a year or two, you know, then come back to Scotland and, you know, and I suppose settle back in. But I guess that's life, isn't it? Sometimes you just take an opportunity, and as I say, it's definitely changed the way I think about the game and probably the way I coach. Just being exposed to different people, different thinking across here.
So who would be your main mentors as a coach? And what did they do that, you know, you thought was a real inspiration for you as a coach now?
I think the first people that inspired me around coaching was Rob Moffat and Bob Eason, who worked with the Scotland Sevens team, and they were probably the first two coaches that we'd had that had real detail and skill development, real detail how they wanted to play the game, but also like a real optimism and a positivity around how they both coach us. And it really rubbed off on a whole group of us at the time. You know, they really, I guess, inspired a lot of us to get involved in rugby and get involved in coaching. So they were the first coaches, and then since then I've been really lucky to work with different head coaches. You know, so Colin Cooper, who's at the Chiefs at the minute, was the first coach that allowed me an opportunity to work with, you know, with a men's team at Taranaki, and he's got a real manner in the way he goes about dealing with people. The rugby was good, but he showed me a way of maybe calming me down a wee touch around being Scottish and being slightly aggressive and slightly excitable at times. Coops has got a real calm manner, and his ability to work with people and get the best out of people and give them confidence, whether it be a coach or a player. You know, it was a real eye opener to me as a young coach. He's somebody still, you know, I keep in touch with a lot, and you know, really respect what he's done as a coach and how well respected he is as a man. And since then, you know, again, I've been just lucky to all the head coaches I've worked with have been completely different. You know, from Coops to Gordon Titchens, who I worked with the Sevens, to Mark Hammett, Chris Boyd, Tom Coventry. They're all really different head coaches on and off the field. So they think about the game different. The way they deal with the players or their staff's been really different. So again, I suppose a lot of that all have shaped how I try and operate now as a head coach. You know, this is my first role as a full-time head coach, and it's certainly different to being an assistant. But I think those guys have really helped shape and been really lucky that they're really different. You know, rather than getting stuck in the one way of thinking or the one way of coaching, it's allowed me to, you know, see a really different side to all those different head coaches.
Right. That's it's quite interesting. You should mention Rob Moffat. We've actually got him on a call in June, so it'll be interesting to see his perspective as well. Just on those coaches, I mean, Gordon Titchens is a Sevens legend. You know, was coached for a couple of decades. I think it was with New Zealand. What you talk about Colin Cooper being calm. Like, what was the difference between him and Titchens?
Yeah, well, that was probably the difference. Titch isn't quite as calm as Coops, and Yeah, they're completely different. But I think, the difference. There's a lot of difference. Titch coached on his own, Justin Simmons, for a long time, whereas Coops had come from Super Rugby, coaching the Hurricanes for 8 or 9 years, who had some massive personalities in the Hurricanes at that time. I mean, Jerry Collins or Matanunu or Tanu Manga. And Coops had to deal with all these types of characters, whereas the Sevens is a bit different, where it was a younger player. So the style, the way of coaching those two teams was completely different. But they both had similarities around what they believed in. They didn't necessarily believe in the same things, but Titch was he was an outstanding selector. It's probably one of the biggest things I took off Titch was his ability to pick a player.
Yeah.
I remember we were at camp and he asked me after 2 days of camp what I thought of Charles Peartown, who was 19 at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, he looks all right. And he's offered him a contract yesterday. I was like, man, that was quick. But that probably summed him up. He was able to spot Charles within 1 or 2 days, where the coaches might miss it, or because he knew what he wanted in a player, he knew the work ethic, and he was really clear on what types of player he wanted. He was able to see it really quickly, and that was his major strength, was his ability to select really good players, but then stick to 1 or 2 principles around nutrition and fitness that he really believed in, and were real non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And it served him well for such a long time. He was able to build that consistency. And again, he's probably replicating it a little bit with Samoa at the minute, where he's now got a group of players, that fit the way he wants to do stuff, and they're seeing some benefits with the Sevens team again.
Yeah, Charles Peartown is not a bad scout, £1 million man at the moment at Bristol. But in terms of players, I suppose as a young coach from Scotland coming over and having an opportunity to be with the Hurricanes, you talk about Jerry Collins and guys like Conrad Smith and Dane Coles, maybe even Bodie Barrett if he was old enough then. How do you that seems like quite a step up in quality. How do you go into that kind of environment as a coach, as a young fella, as a young coach, and almost try and not tell people what to do, but how did you go around telling these world class players how to play, I suppose?
Yeah, well, you're right. I was I was quite nervous when I went to the Hurricanes I suppose as a Scotsman going to a team that I knew, had genuine world-class players who were at the very top of the game. But when I got there, I quickly realised they were the same as most players. And I actually remember speaking to Bob Eason. I think I was back. I don't remember why I was back. But he talked about when you deal with any player, you assume nothing. So when I went to the Hurricanes, as I say, I was a great group of backs. The first year I was just doing skills, and I went in with that attitude that assume nothing, that the players are the same down here, whether it's Taranaki or in Scotland, and really start with basics and really try to get a handle on where their technical game was at. I wasn't involved in the tactics, so it gave me a really good in with the players, because the biggest thing that New Zealand players want to do is get better. Mm-hmm. And because I wasn't involved in attack shape or defence shape, I was really just looking at them as individuals, making sure they had the development plans in place, what they needed to work on, and then help facilitate or coach, whatever.
Right.
So that allowed me to build really good relationships one-on-one with the players. And some of the senior players, like a Conrad, I think sometimes what happens with senior players, they're captain, they're a leader, they're involved in the attack group. They get so many things thrown at them driving areas of the game or driving areas of the team that sometimes you forget they still need help with their tackle, or still need help with their catch pass or their clean out. So guys like Conrad were so open to me looking at their game from a technical perspective initially. It gave me a really good opportunity to build a relationship with those guys and help them practice and set up activities that were aligned to how we wanted to play the game, so that the skills around the context
Right.
of how the team was trying to play, either attack or defence. So I think it was a great introduction. Rather than going in, because the next year I coached the defence, and the next year after that I coached the backs. It was a really good in around building strong relationships with the players. I guess served me well the next couple of years after that.
That's interesting. Yeah. So just one thing that we're trying to do with Rugby Alberta is try and promote the Alberta way, which is kind of a fun learning environment for people to love the game, and it's a games-based approach to practice. There's obviously some drills in there and skill work, but it's more to do with the games and how players can perform their skills under pressure in these games. Is that something that you guys did with the Hurricanes when you're doing the skill development, or how did that pan out?
Yeah, for sure. And it's certainly something we try to do with the sevens team at the minute. Is I had a look at your Alberta way, and that would excite me as a coach or a young player if that's how they're getting coached all the time, because skills in context to how you're trying to play the game is crucial, isn't it? It's decision making in context to what the game looks like. What constraints you can put into a practice that makes your players try and have really good decision making or problem solving skills, because ultimately that's the game. In the Hurricanes, I suppose initially it was quite interesting because it was a lot of drill based, and I guess I probably started because I was only in skills. As I worked with the coaches and got better relationships, how we then try to put skills into conditioning games, into speed drills, into small-sided games, that the skills are in context of how we were trying to play the game. And it's something we've worked really hard with the sevens team here is, catching the ball early is cool, but catching the ball early in context to our attack shape, in a conditioning game, can we design activities that's technical, tactical, physical, and I guess psychological too. It's something we're striving to, and something we're doing a lot of reflecting on the minute. How do we improve that? How do we genuinely build the 4 areas into every activity or every game or every drill that we do? And it's not easy, is it? It takes a bit of time, takes a bit of effort as a coach to really think like that.
Yep.
And that's something we're really reflecting hard on at the minute here as a group of coaches.
So from a head coach point of view, would that, you talk about principles there, would that be something that you'd ask the players to come up with, or how did you work with the players to come up with an ideology, I suppose, for them to play?
Yeah, well, it's New Zealand players especially love to be involved in how you want to play the game. So there's never an issue here around building your game or building your philosophies alongside the players. So this year would be a great example for us, where we stripped the whole game back again and allowed the players to rebuild it, because we can have an ideology about how we want to play the game, but ultimately we're not playing the game. So I think it's one of New Zealand's major strengths is the players want massive input into how they want to play the game now. There can be friction with that, or challenges that if the players start veering off in a completely different direction than
yeah.
I suppose what the coaches think, then you can get into trouble when it's a professional team that winning is important. But I think you can actually get in more trouble going the other way, where it becomes totally dominant on the coach.
Right.
If players don't believe in it and don't want to play that way under real pressure, they'll eventually come back to bite us. So as I say, we were a bit more coach led the first year. So this is our second year with the team. We were an idea on where we needed to improve the game around our skills and our content and our detail within the game, because the team maybe didn't have that. Now we're far comfortable, and the players are really, really driving how we want to shape the game going forward. Just this last block, we've actually changing a little bit how we're going to defend based on the feedback from the players.
Right.
And I'm not 100% convinced we need to change to what they want. But ultimately, I'm not in the field making the tackles, so I coach the defence, and they need to really believe in how they want to defend. So we've made a couple of tweaks. It'll be interesting to see how we go in these next two tournaments with that. But you know, I'm a firm believer if they really believe in how you want to play and the philosophies and the principles of the game, how you want to play, then you know they'll execute it. They'll get excited by it. Sometimes you've got to rein them in a little bit around evolving too quickly. That's definitely a challenge we've got here, because the players want to evolve and want to change and want to try new things a lot. And sometimes you lose that clarity of how we play because we're trying something new. But I think that's probably the best example for us this year, is we've really tried to give the players real ownership on all aspects of the game. You know, what kickoffs we use, what lineouts we've got, what special plays we use, what free kicks. They've had a massive input to that.
That's great. I think it's that balance of risk and rewards real important, which kind of brings me on to my next question. You know, having coached the Hurricanes as well, and then moving on to London Irish in England, was there a distinct difference in the coaching styles, or you know, I think you can see that from when you watch a Super Rugby game to a Premiership game. You know, it definitely does look different. You know, what do you think was the main difference in those coaching styles there?
I think, there's massive differences around how people think the game needs to be played, but I think the biggest thing I took was there's no right and wrong around how the game's played. Some teams in the Northern Hemisphere want to scrum for a penalty, and kick to the corner and get a maul and then kick 3 points. It doesn't mean that's wrong. It just means that's how they want to play the game.
Right.
You know, I had a massive reflection. It was, you know, we had a couple of tough years, or one tough year at London Irish where we were relegated, and the next year we were promoted. But the philosophies of the coaches weren't necessarily different, how they wanted to coach or how they wanted to interact. There was a real difference on just how they wanted to play the game. And you know, a big reflection or change that we needed to make was we probably tried to change how we played the game too much in the first year. And looking back now, if you go to a new team, I think you're far better off assessing really where the group's at from a skill and decision making and a structure. You know, the mindset, how you want to play a game, systems and structure, how you build skill sets. Our systems and structures were not ideally suited to the skill sets of the players we had. Right. So that, you know, that caused problems and affected, I guess, the outcome, how we actually went in that first season. But you know, there's definitely differences, but I think my biggest lesson was it's not right and wrong. It's just different ways of wanting to play the game. And the second year, we had a group of young coaches at London Irish who I thought were excellent coaches. You know, Dick Danaher and Paul Hodgson and Nick Kennedy had a real optimism how they wanted to coach, a real positivity how they wanted to coach. You know, there were smart coaches around how they want to build the game, and you know, I learned a lot those 2 years as a coach, on and off the field. How you try and build a game with a group of players that maybe don't have the skill set with the end point of the game, how you want to play it, how you maybe need to show a bit more patience getting there.
And that's good stuff. Just on to the next sort of topic would be, you've talked about the players and the coaches' relationships. You know, how do you create an identity or even a team culture? I don't know if that's the right word or not, but within your team, you know, is that something you feel is important into your team and the results that your team eventually gets, I suppose?
Especially with this team now, with the Sevens team, is we probably think it's a key thing to build your foundation on. We spent a full year really trying to build a vision and a commitment to each other, how we were going to achieve that vision on and off the field. You know, I'm not sure if any team can sustain success if they don't have that. I think you can fluke success, and you can maybe with certain sports or in certain countries not have a really strong foundation where people enjoy coming to work and getting on really well. You can still be successful, but especially in New Zealand and rugby, it's crucial that you have a strong foundation of a culture and identity, how you want to operate as a group, how you want to communicate with each other, because under pressure, that's what you're going to fall back on, is how you operate as a group. So we certainly spent a lot of time building a culture of a sort of a strong vision. We've got a group of values that we're trying to turn into behaviours on and off the field. So it's not on a sheet of paper. All teams will have the same values, and so on. I guess it's how you drive those behaviours and make change. And again, it's something we've been reflecting on. We think we've got ourselves in quite a strong starting position on that, but now we need to get really deep on, what are actually the things that make us tick, and what are the really important elements to that, so we don't get sidetracked and we don't lose way heading towards. We've got a pinnacle event next year, and we feel there's a lot of people wanting to add things to either our culture or how we train, so we're just trying to get really clear at the minute on, right, what does our identity and culture really look like, and what are the behaviours that are massively important to making that happen. What are the trademark behaviours that make us tick. So we've got a wee bit of work to do in off-season, just making sure we get clear on that again. It's something we've enjoyed and something that all the players and the management have really bought into. And we're unique. We've got a Pacifica flavour to our team. We've got a real Maori flavour to our team. We've got a European, so again, it makes New Zealand rugby makes us really strong and get that balance right. Make sure we embrace all the different types of culture we've got within our team.
Very good. I think within your team, do you have like a kind of a social committee, or maybe not a social committee, but like a jokester or something like that, or somebody?
We've got groups of, as I say, we've got 3 different areas of our team that make up our team, and we filter that through everything we do. So our fun and connection has a real Pacifica and Maori theme, around our haka or around the singing within the team. We have a leader that's sort of in charge of that. So Sione Malia, he tries to make sure he's taking control of how that looks within the team. Mm-hmm. So again, we try and use our leaders across the team, driving different areas. Kurt Baker's that prankster. So he's organised to the point where he runs management challenges every captain's run to have fun, but he also busy arranging the end of season function as an example. So yeah, for sure, we try and have a lot of fun. It's no different just because we're a professional team. The social aspect and the fun and enjoyment is huge on our priority list, and we genuinely make time within our scheduling and make time within our week to make sure we connect as a group and have fun. Just because it's our jobs doesn't mean we don't want to have a load of fun.
No, that's class. I watched a presentation from a fellow called Wade Gilbert. He's a coaching professor somewhere in the States, and I think it was an ice hockey team, a college ice hockey team he talked about, and they're an extremely successful outfit, and they have all these trophy cabinets, and on there, they got the championship trophy, MVP, rookie of the year, and right up there was jokester of the year. So I mean, it just showed how important fun is, and having someone who'd fill that role within the team, is massively important. So.
Well, we have the same. We have a mini team, so all our boys in management are in mini teams. And our awards night, one of the biggest prizes is the mini team. So, which team can win the mini team, and then the management challenge between the management gets pretty serious. So, we're no different. We think that fun aspect's huge to the boys enjoying themselves.
Yeah, that's class. Also, just with the New Zealand Sevens, do you have much of a relationship with the All Blacks coaches? Steve Hansen, about player development, or if there's a guy that they've got their eye on, would they use the Sevens as a platform to develop that player for example?
Oh, we're certainly working hard at the minute around that integration within our 15s clubs. So Super Rugby, how do we genuinely become integrated as part of the development of our young players in New Zealand? So the team had maybe lost a little bit of its way around those relationships over the last 3 or 4 years. Part of my job, or it's certainly been to try and reintegrate to those teams. And if you look at Anthony Nana Saturu is probably our best example at the minute, who came to us as part of his development to go to the Chiefs. It was a direct relationship between us, Anthony, and to use our team as part of his development. He'll play for the New Zealand 20s this year. Guys like Scott Gregory's the same, who played New Zealand 20s last year, will probably play Super Rugby next year. So he's been with us for this year to help accelerate, him on and off the field. So we certainly, we're starting to see that. We've got Celeste Reyesi, Anthony, we've got 2 that will play Super Rugby next year. And that has to be part of this team's job. We can't be, it's an Olympic sport, and it's important to try and win the pinnacle events. So we get that, and that's a big part of my job, is to try and produce a team that can do well in those pinnacle events. But a lot of the other time, it's certainly around accelerating young players and giving them a great foundation to go into professional teams.
Well, that's good. I was just so obviously with the Olympics next year, you've got London and Paris in the next couple of weeks. I believe the following weekend, I think. So when do you guys head to London? Next week? Or?
Yeah, we head off next Friday. So it's been really good, actually. We had such a busy time through those middle part of the season, with Hamilton, Sydney, Vegas, Vancouver, and then Hong Kong, Singapore, where you really only had 2 weeks at home. So the whole team, the management, had a couple of weeks apart when we got back, and then we've had 2 training weeks, plus this week coming up. So it was a good mental break for everybody, really. And as you say, the World Series looks unlikely for us. We're sitting 3rd, but we need to make sure we qualify for the Olympics. That's first things first. That was the main priority this year, was to finish in the top 4, because that'll allow us to then plan our off season or implement the plans we've got in place through to the Olympics as early as possible. Rather than having to go to the the Oceania tournament in November, or worse still, go to the final wide repechage later next year. So if we can tick off qualifying these next 2 tournaments, that'll allow us to then implement the plans we've got in place for the off season and in the pre-season, then obviously the build up to the Olympics through the World Series next year.
So you guys are centralised now. You've been centralised for just a year, maybe, or just when
it's the second season, yeah.
Second season, yeah. So obviously it's a big help having the guys together in a full-time role. Do you think it's been real a positive for you guys to have that group together for this length of time?
Yeah, it's been crucial. With the way the World Series is now, with 10 tournaments, and then, as I described there, such short turnarounds through that middle part of the year. If you want, living in the same place and you had to just come in for camps, it would mean you weren't at home for, probably half the year. So that would be, it'd be ridiculous to think that you can operate like that and then develop a culture and an identity off the field, but also, improve your game and build your game through the year would be really difficult. So, we're lucky. We're in an amazing spot here in Mount Maunganui. It's one of the best climates in New Zealand. We've got a good facility here that's fit for purpose, and gyms and meeting rooms. It's not hugely flash or overly big, but it's really fit for purpose around us training and conducive to us living here together. There's no huge amount of traffic around the place. There's the ocean where guys can surf and get in the sea, or there's hunting. If you go head inland, there's plenty of places for the boys going hunting and so on. So the boys, downtime, they're either in the sea or in the bush, I guess. Most of the boys. It's a really cool spot for us to all live. Real family, place. Real summer.
Yeah.
Through some time, and as I say, really conducive to downtime, and allows us to come to work every day. We look around and probably think we're living the dream, I guess, most days.
Yeah. Do you guys do Airbnb over there, or is that what?
Yeah, there's a few Airbnbs floating around. I think think we should maybe be buying a few Airbnbs, might make the team some money. So, no, it's a beautiful part of the world. It's we're not going to lie. We're really lucky to be based here.
Nice one. So just last question. When you think of sevens, you always think of New Zealand, but the other team you think of is Fiji. How do you prepare to play a team like Fiji? How does that? I don't know if you can prepare, or how's your outlook on that fixture?
Well, you can prepare. I think it's when you think of sevens, I guess you think of New Zealand versus Fiji, don't you? It's been a historical rivalry for 20 years now, where ultimately those two teams have been at the top. There's plenty of other teams now in the World Series that can win tournaments, but that's the ultimate game, and it's hugely exciting challenge to play a team that has such great athletes, has an amazing ability to play the sport in such a unique way. We've got a massive amount of respect for the way Fiji can play the game, and we just love it. We love that challenge of trying to contain their attacking ability, trying to stress them with our attacking ability, and it's basically 50-50 over 100 odd games where they've beat us and we've beat them. So those games last year in the World Cup and in the Commonwealth Games especially, it was, I feel if you're going to win a pinnacle event, you should probably try and beat Fiji to win it. So to beat them in the final of the Commonwealth Games, as well as the semi-final of the World Cup, made it sort of extra special. And we've seen it this year. They've beat us 3 times. We've beat them 2 times. We've lost after the hooter twice to them.
Yeah, it's
kind of the way it's meant to be, and we just, with our players and staff, just get excited. And I guess they're the same. They very rarely play poorly against us. You see them lose the odd game. They lost to Canada and they lost to Scotland this year, but you very rarely see them play poorly against us. So it's a great challenge.
It's definitely exciting to watch those types of games. Just to finish off, just with our Canadian listeners here, what would be a piece of advice you'd give to our budding young coaches that want to make a difference to the game in Canada?
Oh, it's hard. It's hard for me to comment on their coaching, but I think if I look at that Alberta way, and the players at the centre of it, and people are trying to coach skill within context of games and small-sided games and activities, then you'll produce players that really want to play. I think giving them the freedom to play and not being too structured is crucial. It's one of, if you look at Fiji and New Zealand, their ability to play unstructured rugby is still better than most. I think around the world we're too quick to give structure and too worried about if people do stuff what we perceive to be the right way. So, I'd love your coaches to keep sticking to that game based approach, and don't get too structured. Don't put them in a box. Allow the players to explore different ways of doing the way the game evolves. That's the way players evolve. I think that's the way players really enjoy turning up every weekend. And if they enjoy it and they turn up next week and then they turn up next season, then I guess you've done your job as a coach. I've just been watching my daughters play netball and hockey all morning, and all I want is them to enjoy themselves and turn up next year, because that keeps them involved in the sport. And I think that's ultimately our job.
Yeah.
I don't see it any different with professional sport. I think it's actually exactly the same. If we can get a players to turn up every day, enjoying themselves, expressing themselves, wanting to turn up next year, I think we've sort of done our job. We always want to win and lose. We get that. That's a given. But getting your players to enjoy themselves, express themselves, and turn up again next week and then next season's, that's what we should really be trying to achieve.
That's a great piece of advice. That's absolute quality. I think that's pretty much the time up there. I haven't got any questions from any of the other listeners, so I don't know if that's because I've done a good job or not. Who knows? But thanks very much for joining us, and wish you all the best in the next few weeks, and then next next year, the Olympics, I'm sure you guys will qualify. And oh, hang on, sorry, I do have one question, just for the last 2 minutes. If you go back in time and give a younger you advice, what would you say?
I've actually got asked that question once before, and I was like thinking, wow, what would it actually be? But I think it would be what I've just described, is not get too fixated on small details and wanting things to be right all the time, is stay nice and relaxed, young Clark, and let your players enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then coach off that, as opposed to coaching they need to be coached.
Yeah.
You know, as a young skills coach, I was really fixated on real detail, and I still like detail, but I think letting the players find a way to execute a skill or a decision has probably been my biggest learning through the last 10 years. So if I could go back and give myself that advice right from the off, you know, it would have accelerated me.
Nice one. Appreciate that. Well, top man Clark, thanks so much for coming in again, and all the best in future endeavours, and yeah, all the best, and thanks again.
All good. Thanks very much for your time. Cheers.
Right. Cheers, Clark. See you, man. Bye.
See ya.